Good morning and good afternoon. I'm Frank Mallicoat with Fox here in the San Francisco Bay Area, and delighted to have Dr. Michael Roizen with us today. He's the Chief Wellness Officer Emeritus with the Cleveland Clinic, author of a number of wellness books. He has written a few of those with Dr. Oz, 5 bestsellers. How was that for an intro, Doc? Good morning.
It's a great intro. Thanks, Frank.
All right, great to have you with us. We're talking about immunity, and that's certainly a buzzword these days. You've written some guidelines to immunity and how to stay healthy in your everyday life, and boy, do we need to hear those now. Tell us about that.
Right. So your immune system helps defend you against all invaders, whether virus or bacteria or anything else, particles included. And so the most important things we've learned from immunizations, that is, when you get an immunization, it's really a foreign invader, if you will, that you want to get a reaction to, so that when a real invader comes in, you're able to attack it. What we've learned is that sleep and having appropriate nutrition are the most important. Sleep, meaning for 7 days, those people with 7 to 8 hours of sleep did much better, had a much higher success rate of that immunization. Certainly those people whose nutrition was appropriate, that is, they had a multivitamin for 7 days and they ate, if you will, more healthy food than unhealthy. Now, I'm biased in this because I'm sponsored, if you will, or I have that. If you will, I'm chair of the scientific advisory board of mypersona.com, Persona Nutrition, which helps provide multivitamins. So that's one of the biases I should disclose. The third thing was exercise, but not too much, but maybe a little more than you usually do, but not excessive. What do we mean by that? Marathon runners have an increased risk, about a 3-fold increased risk of colds and flu for 3 weeks after they run a marathon. So we don't want you to do excessive exercise. And the fourth thing is manage stress. That is, appropriately manage the stress you have, so practice stress management. But again, it is sleep and that appropriate nutrition that are most important.
Well, let's get back to your diet. I mean, we are what we eat. There's no doubt about that. Is it ever too late to get on that train?
No, in fact, folks,
go ahead.
In fact, Frank, exactly what you said, because in these studies looking at people who ate, it was 7 days before they got the, if you will, invader, that they had started having a multivitamin and that they started eating well. So if you want to know what you're eating, you look and you want to avoid simple sugars, added syrup, simple carbohydrates, red meat, processed meat. Those things actually foster the virus growing in you and replicating in you. So going to more plant-based, more vegetable-based diet is exactly appropriate. And even if you start now for 7 days, you'll increase your immunity going forward.
And sleep-wise, I get up at God's hours, anchor a morning show. Sometimes, you know, you've got your other life on the other side. You don't get to bed when you need to, but sleep is so, so important.
Yeah, you know, when we look at who is most at risk for this, when they do risk factor, in the old times before we had vaccination, the people who were most at risk for viral diseases were, in fact, TV personalities.
Oh.
So Oprah didn't like that when I told it to her, but those were the data, actually. And it's because you guys have such what you might call irregular schedules. So trying to do it regularly, and that's true when we're at home now. Many of us, the stay-at-home mantra now, if you will, has gotten us to say, well, we can sleep anytime, we can binge watch TV. You want to be exactly regular, even more now than ever, and you want to make sure that regular period is at least 7 to 8 hours.
And routine, I guess that's the next question. So important. Get the 8 hours, eat your meals at the certain times. If you can get on a routine in these crazy times, that's probably going to help too, right?
That exactly. So it is the sleep, it's nutrition. By the way, if people want to know what they're eating, what they're missing, whether it's vitamin D or vitamin C, you can go to mypersona.com and take the free assessment. But the point is that chicken soup, vitamin C, vitamin D, um, zinc, those things help with the cold viruses, the adenoviruses. They haven't been shown to help with the flu viruses, but they don't hurt. And one of the things that is most important is hydration. If you do get sick and get a fever,
Right.
so that your mother's chicken soup is a really good thing, Frank.
Well, I heard if you're not peeing 4 or 5 times a day, you're probably not drinking enough, right?
Right. You should be able to read a newspaper through your, not that you should do this, but you should be able to read a newspaper through your pee.
How about stress? Because we are all feeling it right now. My other half and I, we were talking last night. Just it's crazy right now. How do you kind of shelf that and let some of this frazzleness go, or can you?
Well, there are a lot of free apps on the internet that teach one or more of the 12 techniques for stress management. So there are 12 techniques that have been shown to help people reduce stress: guided imagery, meditation, deep breathing, progressive muscle relaxation. Those are just 4 common ones. And what you want to do is learn one that you can use. So deep breathing works for me. I take my finger, I put it on my belly button, keeping my eyes open, so I can even do this while I'm driving. Someone cuts you off, you can do this. And you take as you take a breath in, and you want to take it through your nose if you can. As you take a breath in, your finger should go away from your body. As you breathe out, it should go towards your spine. And just practicing that, by concentrating on that, you clear your mind of the negative thoughts. And then you want to practice that for 5 minutes, even when you don't have stress, morning and night, so you can really easily pull it out. Progressive muscle relaxation: you squeeze a muscle, and then all your muscles, and then you progressively relax them from the outside going in. Guided imagery is where you close your eyes and you might think of a
Right.
day on a beautiful San Francisco day, looking at the Golden Gate Bridge or something.
Mhm.
And so there are all kinds of techniques, and you should sign up for one of the free apps. Cleveland Clinic has one called Stress Free Now, where you can go to clevelandclinicwellness.com/programs, and there is a coached program that teaches you how to do it. I think you have to pay for that one, but in the normal Apple and Android app stores, you get free versions of Stress Free Now.
Some people might turn to alcohol. I know. I just heard a news clip today that said alcohol sales are up 55% right now. What
Wow.
does
Well,
alcohol do to the body?
and meth use is up as well. And that's what we're afraid of with this process, is that when people get unemployed, when they're diseases of despair, it is alcohol and drug use that cause much more damage, if you will. And
Hmm.
so the basic message is, for drugs, is don't try it once. 17% of us are so genetically predisposed that if you try an opioid once or you try meth once, you get hooked on it. With alcohol, you want to keep it to the same level, no more than 2 drinks a day for men, one drink a day for women. And when I say 1 drink a day, that doesn't mean 7 on Friday night. Isn't 1 a day? It's 1 a
Right.
day.
Gotcha. But red
So
wine, how about red wine? Some say that that has a calming effect. It's supposed to be good for you. Maybe a glass of red. No?
Well, it doesn't matter whether it's red or white or beer or spirits. It turns out, you hate to talk about science fraud, but the red wine, better than other alcohol, for cardiovascular system and for aging, was in fact science fraud. The guy is actually in jail because he defrauded the U.S. government by
Wow.
getting NIH grants for it. But you'd have to have about resveratrol really does help if you get enough of it, but it takes 180 bottles of a good Pinot to get you enough of it in one day.
All
Most
right.
of us can't do that, right?
No, that would be a bad day. That would be a bad day. Can you talk about why some people that get the coronavirus end up in an incubator and some people that get it don't even know they have it? And I know some folks have medical issues and that's why that happens, but what if they're perfectly fine? Our bodies react differently, don't
Yeah, it does have to do with your immune system and being able, and also the dose of the virus you get and the state you're in. So you want your immune system. Let me go and basically, when you get something invading you, like a virus or a droplet, you have little cilia in your nose and in your lungs that broom-like sweep it out. So you want those to work. If you vaped, if you've smoked, those cilia don't work as well.
they? Right.
And if you've done it recently, meaning within a day or two, they don't work at all. So it gets into the lung tissue and then it can attach to receptors unless you've had something that's triggered a response to go after it. And it's basic, and then the predispositions, the reason people get heart attacks and strokes with this is that they get so much inflammation in their body that it causes the plaque to break off. So if you've got plaques in your arteries, they break off and go distantly, and that's where you get the heart attack or the abnormal heartbeat that kills you instantly, or the arrhythmia or the stroke. The other is and this is what's happening to younger people who vaped or smoked, it attaches to that receptor on what we call one of the specific lung cells, a pneumocyte type 2, and that normally makes surfactant, makes the stuff that keeps your air sacs open so you can oxygenate well. And it inhibits those cells from making that surfactant. So that's why you get a collapse and then you can get a bacterial infection afterwards. So it is keeping that immune system healthy so so you don't get invaded and so the virus can't attack and replicate as much.
Why haven't we seen COVID-19 before?
Well, it's a new strain of coronavirus. So we used to have 3 of the coronaviruses are common. They're actually in the influenza B vaccine. And there are a couple more that don't cause any problem that are running around. Then we had MERS and SARS. And it took about 3 years to get a vaccine against SARS, because when we started it, and that's the safety concern with the vaccines now, when we started to make that vaccine, there was a very rare overreaction to some of the people who got immunized that led to, in fact, that serious, if you will, shock-like state. They overreacted, their immune system overattacked it, and ended up with no blood pressure, and they died. So that's why the safety concern with this coronavirus is so significant. But this is a new mutated virus. It's a different virus. There actually are eight different mutations of this one. The great news is that most viruses, when they mutate, after they get to a new host, they mutate to a more benign state because they want to survive longer. So we hope that as it mutates, it doesn't mutate to something worse, but mutates to something less serious, less virulent as far as causing death. And that's what when you ask medical professionals, what's the worst thing they fear? It mutates to something much more virulent. It hasn't done that yet.
We will see this again, will we not, in the fall, in the winter?
Well, the thought is that with the sun's increased energy, we don't know whether it's heat or distance of people or just the actual energy of the ultraviolet light coming down, seems to make these viruses go away around now. In the next 10, 15 days, we should see it dropping off, not only because of social distancing, but also because it goes to the southern hemisphere. It goes south for their winter. And at that point, we should see it go away. That gives us 4 to 5 months, if we're lucky, to find either a treatment or a vaccine Now, the vaccine development, because of Tony Fauci, he let contracts out for 4 of the companies, I think January 3rd or 4th. He had enough budget in the NIH budget. It's one of the things he had for emergencies. And he let those contracts out. 3 companies are now in human safety testing because of the problem with the SARS vaccine. They're going to make sure if it's a 1 in 10,000 event, means you have to test about 100,000 people to make sure it's safe enough for us. But he's going to, so those safety tests should be completed, we expect in September, October. But he's already saying, and 3/4 of the way through that, he's going to start the efficacy tests and then start giving money to gear up production. There, when you say, can we make 1 billion vaccinations, or 330 million if it's just in the US? There's only one company with large enough, if you will, vaccine production to be able to do that. So we're going to have to, so he's going to gear it up and start to fund increased vaccine production facilities as soon as he knows one of these is safe. So we're really lucky he's there, because he's helping all of us get our immune systems in better shape by that vaccination.
Can we talk about people that have recovered from it? Are they immune to it?
Well, it appears to a large degree they are. We aren't sure 100%, but it looks like, in fact, many of the medical professionals, even here at the Cleveland Clinic, are saying they hope they get a low level of disease so they can demonstrate immunity by the antibody test, and then both be donors to other people of their antibodies to help those people fight it, but also so they can work with COVID-19 patients with not fear of getting very ill, because we think that immunity will last for at least 2 years as judged by the other COVID viruses. So that's the coronaviruses. So that's the message is, you're right. And we're taking that immune serum, both in data from China and Korea, was that immune serum helps people who are really, really sick, when you get enough of it, to fight off the virus and recover from very serious intensive care unit illnesses.
Do you expect more doctors and health workers to come down with this?
Well, it's 18% now. So 18% of the total in the United States who have tested positive are physicians, nurses, frontline people, police, that is, the people who've been dealing on the front lines. That's a pretty high ratio, if you will. I think that's much higher than the population in those same groups. It's about 2.5 times the population, as I understand it. So we expect that, and hopefully not many will die from it, but will recover from it and then be immune enough to be able to be frontline treaters.
Back on the front lines, right. How about wearing a mask? I went into Costco the other day. I had a mask in my car. I said, no, I won't wear one. And then I saw everyone in line. I said, you know what, I'm going to wear one. We kind of need to lose our vanity a little bit. And I noticed.
So I have this bandana, if you will.
Okay.
But whether it's a bandana, that mask isn't helping you. It's helping everyone else,
right,
to protect from you. And when you see other people wearing it, it's their protecting you by their wearing it. That is the droplets. It's not the aerosol. Remember, there are 3 ways this spreads. One is, the major way is droplets. When you cough or sneeze, those droplets carry and last for a while, and even live on wood and stone and other things, the door handles, etc. And that's what you're protecting from. The aerosol goes through that. That is, you're breathing. The virus itself will go through that. That's really the N95 mask. Most people, if they see an N95 mask, they think that white thing on the inside is paper. It isn't. It's a mold of plastic and other compounds that are really fine, and they're electrostatically charged to capture the virus in them. So that's the difference. That will capture the virus from getting into you, as well as you putting it out. And then The third way we're just learning, and this is Paul Offit's work from the University of Pennsylvania, that he says a fair number of people have gastrointestinal symptoms. He thinks it's transmitted through what we call the fecal oral route, like hepatitis C is, et cetera. And thus, he says, when you get takeout food, reheat it to 140 degrees for 15 minutes to make sure your food doesn't have any way of being contaminated. But that's, and that's also true of food you cook at home. You want it at least 140 degrees for 15 minutes to decrease that fecal oral route. So that hand washing helps with that, helps greatly with that, especially hand washing before you eat anything. And so those are, but the mask is helping everyone else. So if everyone wears a mask, as they're doing in Czechoslovakia and Bulgaria and other, you're helping everyone.
And you can make your own. It doesn't have to,
Yes.
you know, I know there's not a big supply out there of those. Let me ask you this. Do you think interaction between human beings in years to come is going to change now? The handshake, the hug, all that kind of thing?
Well, you know, I can't remember who said it, but someone said it recently who's one of the top economists or business owners in the world, and who said, you know, nothing will be the same as it was before this hit, because of that interactions will be totally changed, meaning you'll see, I mean, we're doing this on a video, if you will, on a Zoom, and you would have, I mean, I guess this is one of your first, and it's probably less than my 10th interview on a Zoom. So
I know
it is. We're doing new stuff, right? How do you feel about it? You'll have more data on it than I will. All right,
well,
is this going to change everything?
I think it's already changed the way we do TV. I mean, we've got a staff in our newsroom. You know, we do 6 hours of a morning show. Our producers are at home. Our writers are at home. I went live today from home for the very first time. I'm home right now talking to you. I have the ability to edit at home, to look at video. Our director's at home. I think there's 140 people at our station, and I think there's only 20 at the station right now, which is phenomenal to produce that kind of news. And I think now that the world is discovering that people can be efficient at home, why do we need all this? Why do we need to lease all this office space if we can send them home, you know?
Right. Real estate is going to change.
Yeah,
I mean,
yes.
drastically. I mean, it is, it's not just because of the mortgage values, et cetera. Real estate is going to change how the space you live in and how much you interact. But, you know, I think, you know, in walking around my neighborhood, people put out directional signs on the street so everyone's going in the same direction so they don't cross paths. And which is very interesting, I think. But it seems to me everyone's ready for a party when this ends. You know, Frankie Valli should sing a song, "Oh What a Party," rather than "Oh What a Night," right? For the next song.
Well, I can only imagine when they finally let the shelter in orders go away, shelter in place, that people are probably going to go. It'll be like prohibition back in the 20s, but we need to tread lightly because this is a whole different animal. But Doctor, you've been great. Any last piece of advice for our viewers out there you'd like to share?
It is, do what you said. Establish a regular schedule. Even if you're at home and not working, establish a regular schedule, and do take a multivitamin and do assess your nutrition so you know what is, and most of us know what is good for us. Do assess it if you want online, and find out what you're missing so you're getting it, and then manage stress and keep your exercise up.
I guess the bottom line is if you take care of yourself, you're taking care of others, right?
That's exactly right.
All right. Well, Dr. Michael Roizen, he's from the Cleveland Clinic. He's the Wellness Officer Emeritus. What a pleasure to meet you via Zoom and to have this conversation with you, Doctor. Very enlightening.
The privilege and pleasure of mine. Thank you.
All right, Doctor. Thank you for that. I'm Frank Mallicoat here in the Bay Area for Fox. We'll send it back to you. Well, you are the man, Doctor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. When will this air? Do you know?
We do a 2-hour special through all the Fox O&Os. And it usually airs between, at least here in the Bay Area, from 10 to noon, and in Phoenix an hour later, and on the East Coast, and it runs through our web pages. And occasionally they'll cherry pick out sound too for our show as well. I don't know offhand, but I've been told we've been interviewing people so we can help feed the show down in
great.
But you will, the whole thing will air for sure.
Good. Well, you look great. I mean, it's actually for the first time. It's remarkable. Thank you.
I know, it's pretty crazy. I went live this morning, and I've been doing this 35 years. I was a sports guy in Boston. I worked in New Hampshire. I grew up here in the Bay Area, went to Cal, and I had never, I shot my own video years ago, but when you've got to be your own mini director, you've got to hook up all this apparatus and get set and go live in your microphone. It's a little crazy, but here we are.
And know the background to ask the right questions. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're doing your normal job too.
When's your book come out? That's in September or something like that?
This one came out already. What to Eat When. And What to Eat When, the cookbook, it was supposed to come out next week. It's coming out August 18th. They changed the date.
Probably a good idea. Take your time.
I hope. Thanks.
Well, I will take a look. Doctor, Godspeed. You're the best. Thank you.
Thank you. Keep well.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.